So, Toddy, Big Ten football. Unfortunately, this banner does not say Ohio State beats Oregon in Big Ten championship because
Brother,
Ohio
you
State
guys
did
have been
not.
playing this game.
Man,
I'm not even gonna lie.
Penn State didn't deserve it, brother.
Yeah.
They was just there for the knickknacks and the paddywhacks. But moving on, Oregon beats Penn State 45-37 in the Big Ten championship game. Toddy, what were your thoughts?
Oregon started out fast, like Kevin and I mentioned earlier when we were trying to get in on the game. They scored on the first drive. This was like a flex your muscle kind of game. I thought that Kenyon Sadiq, the tight end for Oregon, kind of had like a monster breakout-ish game. 2 touchdowns early. They were looking for him early and often in this game. I thought Dylan Gabriel, Cordell, shout out to Cordell. He hit me up before this game started. He was like, "You think Dylan Gabriel's going to throw for 3 touchdowns?" I was like, "Oh, that's going to be easy. They're gonna put up points. Oregon is at its best when they're throwing the ball." He was like, "I don't know. Penn State, their defensive backs, like they're pretty good." And I was like, Penn State ain't played nobody. The only team that really played was Ohio State, and they lost that game. And James Franklin, whenever they play like against ranked opponents, it's bad. I saw like a stat whenever then the last 10 games, whenever Penn State's an underdog, they're 0-10 straight up. And like whatever, have a losing record against the spread. But this was a game I thought Ohio State definitely should have been playing in. It should have been a rematch of the early matchup. I think it was like week 3, week 4, an early matchup. It was at Austin Stadium that kind of went down to the wire where just I don't want to get back into that game. Will Howard, he who must not be named, slid when there was.
How you say Will Howard and say he who should not be named?
He slid when he didn't have time on the clock. That's neither here nor there. But I thought Dylan Gabriel played really well. I thought Oregon's defense looked a little bit lackluster. They kind of were flexing their muscles early on, but Penn State kind of started to climb back into it. Drew Aller was making a bunch of plays. The tight end for Penn State, Tyler Warren, dude was a dog.
Oh my God, he's like that. They had Theo Johnson last year, bro. They are putting it together.
He is a dog. He was pretty much the only guy that was really doing whatever he could. I thought Katron Allen, running back for Penn State, played his ass off in this game. Aller needs to figure out a way. He's not really known for throwing picks. That's the thing about him. Last year, I think he threw like 26 touchdowns and like only 2 or 3 picks, and those 2 or 3 picks came in the big games. And in another big game, Kevin and I went back and forth, and even Shaun last year, how I was saying how good Drew Aller was last year, and we were talking about who was the better quarterback, who's the best quarterback in the Big Ten. This before conference realignment, Kyle McCord was there, and I was like, oh, Drew Aller, man, he's gonna be one of them ones. I thought he didn't play as well as I thought he should have. Penn State's defense didn't help him at all. But I thought there were some plays. He went 20 for 39, so didn't have the best stat line. It was kind of them playing catch up, as I mentioned before in the SMU Clemson game. He was playing catch up. Oregon was kind of, letting up. They were up by like 2 touchdowns, I'd say, for the majority of the game at 12. Towards the end, Penn State was able to get a stop right before the 2-minute warning. And I think they had 2 or 3 timeouts left. Penn State had a chance. They had a chance to go down, tie the game up. What does Drew Aller do? He throws an interception. Pissed down his leg, threw an interception. Kind of what shows you how good Penn State usually is. And even in the Big Ten, going into this year, I thought it would be like a 3-team race, Oregon, Ohio State. And people really didn't know how good Michigan would be going into this year.
I got to cut you off, brother. Don't lie to the people. You said USC was going to be in the mix, too.
Oh yeah. I definitely had USC.
I'm making sure. I had missed that.
But I was going back to as the Big Ten. Usually it's Michigan, it's Penn State, and Ohio State. Those are usually the teams. But then going into this year, Oregon. I didn't say this year we'd be like contending. I said next year we might be in that realm.
Toddy, after y'all beat LSU, brother, you was
Oh
talking
my god!
crazy.
I thought
We back,
I thought
baby.
we was winning the national championship.
Couldn't tell Toddy anything after week 1.
But it's kind of time and time again. Every time Penn State is in a big game, even going back into last year's bowl game against Ole Miss, they got rolled. So I'm starting to think like when Penn State gets into James Franklin, it's not just a Michigan, Ohio State thing. I think it's just whenever they play in a big game. Like Penn State has the dudes, they have the athletes that match up with anybody in the entire country when it comes to just player for player. Um, you know, talent wise, I think they match up well with the best of them. I just think they always come up short in big game opportunities. And there's another big game opportunity that had a chance to become the number 1 overall seed, win the Big Ten, win your conference, you're stamped. But I just think time in and time again, whenever Penn State gets faced with something, they kind of, piss down their leg. And hey, earlier in the season against Ohio State, they had a chance to prove themselves early on. They went up 10-0 against Ohio State. And what happened? They didn't score for like the entire rest of the game. I think they only scored 3 points after that.
They finished with 13.
So, I don't know, man. Let's say Penn State, they're going to be the 6th seed, maybe? It kind of is going to get weird because Texas lost today too. But I think Texas is going to be ranked higher than Penn State. But I do think Penn State will end up getting a home game, but I'm not sure who they're going to end up playing. But yeah, man, I thought Drew Aller didn't play as he wasn't the better quarterback in this game. I thought it was Gabriel. Tez Johnson, he's back from injury. A lot of people are kind of, who's that guy? Tez Johnson was a huge factor in this game. He missed the last 3 weeks. I told Kevin before the season started, best duos.
I was hoping you brought this up.
Yeah. Best duos in we were talking about duos, receivers, and we're going back with Ohio State, Oregon. Obviously Kevin was mentioning Abuka, and he was saying Jeremiah Smith, and Jeremiah Smith hadn't played yet, and I was like, Kevin hasn't really played yet. I know what he's probably going to be because I saw him like in the practices. I was like, okay, yeah, this guy's probably going to be one of the ones. But Tez Johnson last year, he was paired with Troy Franklin, who now plays for the Denver Broncos. I was like, this guy's one of the ones. And they were pairing him from a transfer portal guy, Evan Stewart, who transferred from Texas A&M. I was like, Kevin, this is like these boys they're gonna get after it. And Tez Johnson had 181 yards, 11 receptions, and a touchdown. I think he came off of something was wrong with his shoulder or something like that. So he kind of like flexed his muscles, saying like, hey, I'm one of them ones coming into the draft this year. So and Dylan Gabriel played his butt off, 4 touchdowns. He went 283 yards, 22 he went 22 of 32. So I thought he played really well. They got a lot of support from Jordan James. Running back had 2 touchdowns on the ground today too. So Oregon looks like they're probably the best team in the country, and they're kind of just like, all right, like beat Ohio State, beat Penn State. They feel like they could beat anybody pretty much. And I felt like it was close until it wasn't. Like Penn State scored that late touchdown. Really, I felt like this game was kind of over. Like they won by 2 touchdowns, but then Penn State got like that cheap touchdown at the end, which kind of made it a little bit close. So I feel like it's Oregon. Who can beat Oregon, really? And Oregon's going to have that first round bye now and kind of just wait and see who they got to play. I think they play the winner out of like the 5-12 matchup or something like that. I think they would end up playing. They might play y'all, to be honest. They might play Ohio State. And that would be a neutral site game. That's the thing about it. So the first round, so all the first 4 teams, they get a first round bye. And then I think it's 5, 7, and 9, or however the seeding goes. They would get home games basically. So that'd be like a home playoff game. After that, it's all neutral site games. So it's not like you'll have a home field advantage, which I think maybe going into it, teams should it should be a home versus away game, kind of like in the NFL, which is what college football is working more and more towards every day. If we start to work more towards those home and away games, like getting into the playoffs a little bit more, like it should be like you have your divisional round. It's a home game. the AFC NFC championship game. That's a home game for whoever plays. And then the Super Bowl is the neutral site game. There's going to be like 2 or 3 neutral site games going forward after the first round. But I feel like that's more of these bowl games are trying to stay relevant. They're trying to, get as much money as they can and so on and so forth. So that therefore they keep the tradition of having, like the Sugar Bowl, the Rose Bowl, things of that nature. So that's how they try and incorporate everything else. But I kind of like having the home playoff games. Those are pretty cool. But
gives the NFL feel.
Yeah. It gives it that it would give it. Yeah, exactly. So, Oregon looks like they're the best team in the country right now.